Hello, welcome back to the next project I was working on here. I did some reglazing on a bathroom, the tile in the bathroom, 30-year-old tile. Um, Showing here some of the caulk and everything that was left on the tile after I removed the shower door that was installed there. Part of the first step was really cleaning and getting everything all prepped and ready to go for it. So what I did is I used a wire brush on my drill here and used that to just grind away and remove a bunch of the excess caulk and the residue that was on there from underneath that shower door. This seemed to be the best way to do it. These tiles were concave, so the center of them was in from the outside edges. Outside edges were raised just a little bit from the inside part. Got to be quite a difficult part of the process was due to that shape of the tiles in this project. But once I got it cleaned up, I got everything masked up, masking tape all around, paper. This is what it looked like before I started. I ended up adding some masking tape to the handlebars there, the whole bars. I didn't think they would get splattered on much, but as I was going, there was quite a bit of paint splatter on the outside side of them. So I ended up covering the entire thing with tape. So next time I'll just start that from the beginning. So once again, here's that project all taped off, ready to get started with it. I went around and removed all of the caulk in different spots that I could. There's also a few spots where holes were drilled that had shelves in there previously, I'm assuming. There's nothing in them now, but they're all drill holes there and had been covered with caulk, but I just made sure they were filled in all the way and then cleaned up and ready to receive the Rustoleum tub and tile kit. So this is what I got here. I picked it up at Menards or Home Depot, wherever, the local hardware store. They had this. They had it in several colors. I went with white. They also had, I think, almond and off-white. On the box it says what you're going to need for supplies. It makes it really easy to be able to pick everything up from the get-go the first time around. So, like I showed earlier, I did all the cleaning of the, used regular bathroom cleaner to clean it all up once I got all of the residue and caulk and everything removed out. Kit comes with the part A and part B, the base and activator. Basically what you'll do is you'll take those, mix them together, give them a good stir, make sure they're blended well, and then you'll start rolling that on just like paint. The kit said that it should be enough to do my entire area I had here with one kit, which was a surprise to me that it did that much of a level, so I ended up picking up two. Due to some complications I had with it, I ended up having to pick up a third one, but I think if I would have prepped my tile well enough to begin with, I would have been able to get away with using two kits on it. So you can always pick up an extra one, and then if you don't end up needing it, you can bring it back to the store is the way I felt. So I started out with two, and then I ended up actually having to pick up a third one. So pretty straightforward, typical supplies needed as if any other painting job. You start out just cleaning the surface, getting all of the debris and stuff off of it. So right here's where that shower door was, and then some of those holes that I was referring to that I just filled with caulk. Nice just clear caulk that was paintable, so it would accept that epoxy well. Right along here is where that shower door was. You can see where it's kind of gray there, where I was scraping off some of the enamel from the tiles, which ended up not really affecting it at all. It didn't really matter that that enamel and top coat of the tile was removed as part of the cleaning process. But cleaned all the way down, all the way around along the shower pan, and then up the other side. There's also some other spots, like I said, the holes here that I filled. A couple of the spots where there's holes, and then this tile here was falling out, so I removed it all the way, cleaned up the back and everything, and re-adhered it with some tile caulk that was meant to fix broken and replace tile pieces. So obviously looking like this, it's not the prettiest, but once it gets painted over, it's not super noticeable. You can kind of tell it's a little bit off, but not that noticeable, and it's kind of down underneath that grab bar, so really kind of out of the way, inconspicuous spot for it. So, but here's some of those other spots where there's the holes that we're gonna that had to be caulked and covered over. So just kind of an overview of what it was looking like before I started with the process. Put the painter's tape and masking paper up to prevent it from getting on the walls and everything as much as I could. Like I mentioned earlier, I ended up wrapping those towel bars all the way around with that masking tape in the long run. So I was thinking that just doing that backside would be enough, but clearly it wasn't. So you live and learn. That's kind of the way it goes. Just showing you guys the process that I took, and you can see what it takes to do it and learn from the mistakes I had and everything. So yeah, I removed much of the trim and everything on the shower handle and shower head and everything as I could to get out of the way. Remove as many obstacles and things to cause issues with as I could. Like I was saying earlier, those tiles, that brown border of them is slightly raised out from the middle, which led to a challenge when it came to using the roller to make sure that it covered the entire tile. I ended up having to go over it, got it with the edge of the roller inside the indent in there and everything. So then once I got the surface ready, prepped up, once I kind of caulked down in these cracks here a little bit. I removed the old caulk that was in there between the counter and the tile, and just replaced it with a new bead of caulk as well as in the corner there. Just figured I'd prep it as well as I could to make it seem, get a nice consistent coat of the epoxy on and everything. So as you can see in the instructions here, it's pretty straightforward. It says properly ventilated area. Yeah, definitely. After being with it around a while, you get a lot of that contact buzz and lightheadedness and everything. So the entire time I was working in there, I had the exhaust fan for the bathroom on, and then I also had the furnace ventilating the fan throughout the entire house to try and minimize the amount of fume buildup and everything in the small bathroom while I worked. So here's what it was looking like after that first coat. I went over it all with a little 6-inch roller. Didn't use the full-size one. And small little roller, as you can see. First coat, you can see that it didn't cover everything completely well. It's a lot better than it was. It's getting there. You can see some of the spots where it maybe wasn't the cleanest from removing that caulk and things. I'll show you some of those up here in a little bit, but that's kind of what it was looking like to begin with. Yeah, you can still see some of the brown through it. Not a consistent coat and seal. The shower pan was looking really great, but that was almond color to begin with, so not a big change in color, but that brown tile underneath, definitely not doable in one coat. I was able to do this entire thing with the one kit for this coat, so it was appropriate. It said that it would cover this much, and it did. So if you're just redoing some white tile or almond tile, something like that, that might not be an issue with only doing one coat, but with this brown tile, definitely not enough with just one coat on that. So here's kind of what it's looking like. Some of the problem areas, that tile that was missing, I replaced. This area here was a big challenge. There must have been caulk or something on there that I didn't realize was there, because as you can see, it would just create little bubbles there that would not take the epoxy on it and cover over with a good consistent smooth finish. Here's some more there too, where it's just like little pinhole bubbles that were not accepting the paint, and it was like it would go on there, and then as it would dry, it would like bead off it. So it was kind of weird. In the end, I ended up did get it covered consistently, but it took some extra work and everything. But that's obviously just from not having that tile as cleaned up as it should have been. Obviously, that's my assumption, is that there was some caulk or silicone or something on there that shouldn't have been, that should have been cleaned off better. But obviously I didn't see it or notice it while I was in the cleaning phase, so it's kind of the way it goes. But overall, you can see it's getting there. You can see it's bleeding through that brown, but it's kind of the way it goes when you are going from a dark color to a light color, is you can expect it to take multiple coats. So that's kind of what's happening here, just giving some detailed shots in some of the corners and everything that were more challenging to get to. Here's that wall behind the door, the detail on those tiles. You can actually kind of see it a little bit better when it's white than it was in that brown. Found it to be interesting. It added a little complexity to rollering it, along with the concaveness of the tile. The detail around those tiles that had those figurines in them took a little bit extra time to spend getting the epoxy in there and everything, getting all those details to coat it properly. So just one more thing that took more time. The amount of time I spent on this, probably more than half of it was in the cleanup phase of prepping the tile and everything, getting that caulk off. Like I said, the tiles being concave really made that a real challenge too, because you couldn't just like scrape, because then it would skim over the part that was in, that wasn't the outer profile part. So like I said, here's those details that were spots where it wasn't adhering properly. With it, I ended up after doing a second coat, and they were still kind of like this, and ended up going over it additionally more later, because as I would try to do it when it was still really wet, it would just keep creating the same thing. So what I ended up having to do was put a coat on there and then come back the next day and put another coat on over it, and then waited a few more hours again, and then kind of did it some more, just in spots where it was doing that, not the entire thing. So the entire bathroom got a second coat. So this is after that second coat here. You can see it's looking really good. This is behind where the toilet will be once I replace that back in there. But you can see the second coat, it's looking pretty well throughout. Like I said, there were some spots where I went back and did third, fourth coat, but it was more just kind of some of those problem areas than like a whole blanket of the entire room. So here's that problem area here after a second coat. You can see it's a little bit better coverage, but still not quite looking good. It's very noticeable still when you're standing back, even when you're not trying to look at the detail of it. So I was very displeased with that still, and spent some time troubleshooting, trying to figure out how to get that to not be as noticeable and really kind of coat properly. So but yeah, here's some of those problem areas again around the railing, the grab bars. Like I said, those grab bars, I just go ahead and coat those with tape all the way around next time. So save a little bit of headache trying to keep it clean around it and not have to worry about it so much. So here's that wall there behind the door. And then here it is here, completely finished up. Got all the tape and everything off around it. Kind of give you a shot through the room as it looks now after it's all completely done. So overall, this Rustoleum product worked pretty well. A lot of people say it's really thin, and I'd echo that, as it's thin to start out with. It thickens up as you're working with it, so take that into account as you're working. It gets a little thicker and a little bit easier to use, kind of in that mid-range, and then it gets to be a little challenging if you're taking a long time with it. So if you do get multiple cans, knowing you'll have to go over a larger area, I'd still say probably just mix one can at a time, paint it on, and then go back and mix the other one. As you can see, that problem area is nice and smoothed out. The only real dissatisfaction I have with what I ended up with here at this point is around that grab bar. I had that tape on there, and I didn't take it off right away. It was on there probably about a week after I painted before I took it off. So as I took off the tape around it, it chipped off some of the enamel and everything. That's why that one grab bar looks kind of sloppy around it. So when you do it, take the tape off probably the next day, 2 days later, before it really hardens up all the way. Overall, the Rustoleum product was pretty great to work with. Really did an overall great job. Takes a lot of time in the prep work, but very satisfied with what it could do. The kits were $20, so for less than $100 and supplies and everything, I was able to transform this ugly bathroom to what it is now.